Hello YouTube and welcome to the first game of EloHell analysis. In this first game of the series I am going to analyze low elo games, especially in bronze and silver, and we're going to follow one specific champion and we're going through the game and see what kind of mistakes they make or where they can improve. There was a lot of demand for this because when watching high elo streams or high elo games, it's really hard for lower elo players to see or to know what choices they are making or why they're making them and what they're doing exactly. So by making analysis of low elo games, which is near most people's skill level, hopefully I can point out some mistakes and you can learn from these mistakes and take them into your own game and improve on top of that. So in this game we are following a jungle Evelynn. One thing to notice is that Evelynn is quite a weak jungler early game. She doesn't have that strong wave clear. She doesn't have much sustain, basically none at all. But she has her stealth and that gives quite some good ganking potential. We know that the Evelynn is against a Nunu as an enemy jungler. Nunu is known for his counter, jungling and invading, and it's a good strategy for Evelynn to start at the red buff, as usually the Nunus start at their blue, get a leash from their teammates, and then the Nunus usually come with a smite and a consume to try and steal your red buff. Seeing as an Evelynn is not a strong duelist, this could result in getting her buff stolen, or even she could die. You cannot always rely on your teammates in these kind of invasions. Your teammates should help when you get invaded, but this doesn't always happen. So we don't see Nunu anywhere, so I don't think he'll be invading. And it seems that Evelynn is going for a gank top. We know that Cho'Gath has no wards, which makes him a good target to gank. Evelynn engages, lost a bit of sight of him there because he went into out of the bush. Maybe used a bit exhaust early, but eventually the Cho wastes his flash. And when an enemy wastes his flash, it's basically a successful gank. You see a lot of people complaining that they went to gank but nothing happened, but wasting a flash is a successful gank. We even see that the Cho'Gath is even recalling, which means the Malphite gets free CS. The Cho'Gath is suspectable for another gank because his flash isn't up, and Malphite still has his flash in case he gets ganked himself or when there's a possibility for a kill. Now we see that Lux has quite a lot of trouble with Lee Sin. Evelynn hangs around, but the lane is quite pushed. But in a moment we see that the Lux gets caught by Lee Sin Q, as he makes the mistake of walking back and going into the range of his Q. Luckily Evelynn still picks up the kill, but Nunu joins the fight and there's nothing much she can do. In the end, I'm not sure if it's really worth it. I don't think so, because right now Evelynn took the kill on the Lee Sin, and Lee Sin got the kill on Lux, which means that Lee Sin is ahead of gold in his lane right now. It was not possible at this fight, but if you can, try to give the kills to your teammates so they can snowball their lane. Only when you are really a better player, you really want to carry, which is what I usually do when I go on my Smurf. Stonewall has done this as well. Then you really want to try to take the kill so you can carry from the jungle. But basically in most cases, 90% of the cases, you always want to give the kill to your teammates. Now we see here that the Ezreal has died bottom lane due to Nunu ganking. We see Evelynn going there. The Grace is low, and the Thresh and the Nunu are backing off. As we can see, Thresh is recalling. Nunu goes back into his jungle after smite. Now what we see here is that there are like 8 or 9 creeps going for the turret. and Evelynn uses her W way too soon. Grace wastes his barrier still, but she should have waited with her W to get into optimal stealth range and then use it. But in the end she would have never gotten the kill. She did waste his barrier, but she had to miss 9 CS because of that. And that's a lot of gold. And as you can see, she's already behind in CS. She has 9 CS while Nunu has already 30. Now Nunu is a better jungler overall, but there's no real reason to leave that CS to the tower. And we see that Lux has died middle lane. As a jungler, you always want to defend the turrets. When a turret is being killed, it gives 750 gold to the entire enemy team. That's a lot of gold. So as a jungler, when your teammates die in which lane, whatever, you want to defend those turrets and get those free CS. So the enemy doesn't get too much advantage. So Lee Sin ganks bottom lane, but he doesn't get a gank. We see Lux and Eve going in. Now, in a lane like this, we see that the trash is very aggressive, and as a jungler, you want to bait that aggressiveness. You want to you want them to go in, waste their cooldowns, waste their spells, and then do a gank. Now here, unfortunately, the Evelynn gets caught by the hook as he dies, but she also gets the kill on Trash again. But Grace got the kill on the Evelynn, which means that Grace has another goal advantage over the Ezreal. It's hard to dodge that hook, or it was really unfortunate. It's not much Evelynn could have done there, but she could have waited before going in when she engaged. The Trash didn't use his hook. She could have waited for him to use his hook, and that could have probably secured the kill as well, and she wouldn't have to die at the turret. Basically, as a jungler, when you get a kill in a lane, doesn't matter which, you have a few options you can do. One, you push the lane and try to get the tower, which is the best choice in most cases, as the towers give a lot of global gold. Another option would be Dragon, but you want to have a ping for that, but in this case Sona had one. But with the Nunu around, it could be a bit risky if you don't know where the Nunu is. And otherwise, if you go back, it's really a waste. You really want to increase your advantage from that fight. Now we see bottom lane got ganked. Ezreal's low, but he didn't die. Evelynn goes and take on the blue. When your middle lane is doing bad or is behind, it's okay for you as a jungler to take your blue buff, especially now with Evelynn. She has 2 kills, her CS is a bit low, but still it's worth more on her than on her middle lane, unless you're a jungler like Lee Sin. We also see on the minimap that the enemy team is going for Drake and Evelynn is ganking top. Joe uses his flash, Moth might use his ultimate, and they do get the kill, which is around 450 gold, and Joe misses some CS. But in return, the enemy purple team made a good choice of doing Dragon in the meanwhile. And this is something to keep in mind as a jungler. When you're ganking top, for example, you have to realize that bottom lane or Dragon is properly warded, or that your enemy team can at least defend it when you are going for a lane gank a lane top. Right now, the gank top wasn't worth it because they lost Dragon in that fight. So now we see Evelynn going bot again, which is quite a good lane to gank because we know they're aggressive. And as you can see here, the Trash goes in again and Evelynn shows up at the correct time, and we get the kill on the Trash. And well, as said before, when you get a kill, you want to capitalize on that mistake, or increase your advantage further. Now, all 3 are quite high HP. Grace is he's not 100% HP, and the minions are at the tower. What they should have done here is push that tower and get that global gold for your team. It also, the destroying towers also puts more pressure on the map because their lower jungle of the enemy team is more fragile right now. So we see that mid has recalled, so Evelynn should go in there. She is. Just get the minions and push the lane out a bit. Don't let the CS go to waste, and make sure that the tower doesn't receive any damage. I'm not sure what Evelynn's going to do here. I think she's going for another gank bottom. But we see that the Sona isn't there yet. It's only Ezreal. We see the trash and the graves on the map. Luckily, as darts the Q with his E. And Sona's on her way, but she's not 6 yet. But neither is Trash. So at this point, Evelynn engages on the Trash, which was not bad, but she should have waited for the Sona to arrive, and probably should have focused on the AD carry. Now Nunu comes in, and Sona wastes her ult on Nunu only, and what happens now is that they run, but they get harassed while running. And when they finally decide to go in and fight, they already lost too much AP to make a difference. And the Evelynn dies, and there's not much the Sona and the Ezreal can do. So they should have engaged sooner, like turn around sooner. If Sona would have hit Graves as well, then they could have turned it into a triple kill, and a triple kill could have led to another free tower. Yeah, because of the running away, yeah, bad disengage as we would call it. Yeah, the enemy team got out pretty fine there, I think. Now we see that top lane also lost the turret. Not entirely sure how. Well, we also see that Cho has no wars at all, and when dodged properly, he also has teleport, so no ignite or whatever, so he can be quite an easy target to gank. Mid lane is probably lost, as it would seem, and as a jungler, you actually want to help your winning lane snowball. And you basically don't want to waste time on lanes that are already lost. For example, like this mid lane. Not saying you should not gank it, but if you can gank the other lanes, it's more preferable. So now Evelynn and Lux are hanging around. I think they want to get a kill on the lead. So now here the Lee goes in, wastes his spells, and the Evelynn can just finish her off. The Nunu shows up, uses his ultimate. But yeah, with his high sustain and his blue buff, there's not a lot they can do. So they should just back off. Now also one thing to mention is you want to keep track of jungle or respawn timers. You could start with Baron and Dragon. Baron is 7 minutes, Drake is 6 minutes. And you want to keep track of that time, especially when you kill Drake. When you kill Drake, you have the respawn timer and the enemy doesn't, which means you have the advantage. So you know when the dragon will spawn, you can prepare for it by warding it early, pink warding it early, and you can group up just before it spawns and kill it really fast so the enemy team has no time to react. And on top of that, you also want to time your own buffs. The faster you kill your buffs, the more uptime you have totally in the game. Now here we see that Evelynn uses her W to get there faster, which is a bit debatable, but she has a cheese kill on the Cho because he goes in. Malphite survives barely. Nunu gets away. If you look closely, you can see the fog of war, blood happening in the snowball. And Evelynn sees the Nunu And with no minions left, he can't consume. And Evelynn is quite fat actually, and she just finishes off the Nunu. So it was a bit risky of Nunu there. We probably should have brought some more wards. I mean, buying a ward as a jungler is not a crime. I usually buy 1 or 2 every time I back, even as a jungler, to help out with warding. Now here the Malphite and the Evelynn go in, but Evelynn dies to the Lee as he gets shut down, which means Lee get a lot of gold. And what she should have done here is she should have waited for the Malphite to check the bush first and not double face check together. And she could have prevented her own death, and she would still have had her double buffs as well. And preferably the Malphite should have gotten the kill, because now all the kills go to the Evelynn and not so much to the teammates. And now the Lee Sin also got the kill on the Evelynn, so he has an even bigger advantage again in middle lane against the Lux. Now we see here that Dragon has also spawned. We know their bottom lane is aggressive, so it's actually a good idea to gank that bottom lane and hopefully get a kill and hopefully get a Drake. So as we see here, they didn't have any wards. Graves is being focused nicely. Trash uses his flash and gets away with low HP. Now at this point, Azure always uses his flash for the Trash, and 3 of the team members are chasing the Trash, and meanwhile mid turret is gone. Lee comes in, gets a cheese kill on the Lux, but dies in the process, and Trash gets away. Now, not a mistake, but they should have made use of their advantage here. They have Sona, their AD carry still alive, and we have a fat Evelynn. We know the Trash is low, the Grace has died, and the Lee Sin has died. So you should go to Dragon. They should have gone to Dragon and get that gold, or at least pushed mid tower. So instead of chasing, they wasted a lot of time, and they should have just gone Dragon or get a tower instead and increase their advantage. Now Cho'Gath teleports in, so Evelynn can't push mid tower either. So we can also see that the Dragon is not properly warded, and if your support is doing a bad job on warding, just buy your own wards and ward that Dragon, because it's really important to make sure that it's warded. It's a lot of gold, it's almost 1k gold. You want to have vision in it at all times, and you even want to know when it respawns. So now we see the Cho'Gath going towards the Dragon. We saw the Lee Sin going as well. And Grace also gets the tower. I don't know how against the Sun and the Ezreal. So basically the enemy team gets another free Dragon, which should have been done by the blue team instead. So it's really a wasted potential of that last fight right there. They are basically behind, let's say 1.5k gold, or it's actually 2k gold. Like the enemy team got 1k gold instead of the blue team, so that's a 2k gold difference. Now here we see 4 people blue team bot, Malphite's top, and the Evelynn decides to engage here, which is a really bad call. The Sona wastes her ultimate really late after the Evelynn got blown up. Yeah, it was really a bad call. You should really, when engaging, you want to know where the enemy team is and where your own team is. You want to make sure that it's a proper team fight. And now the blue team, especially the Malphite, goes in. I don't know why, because it's a 4 vs 5 again. And yeah, they decide to go in again, and yeah, the Ezreal gets picked up, Sona gets picked up, and eventually the Malphite dies as well. And this is basically the result of the bad engagement from the Evelynn. Now she's not directly responsible for her blue team going in after she has been killed, but if the Evelynn didn't engage that 4 vs 5 over there, then the other 3 deaths wouldn't have happened. They should have just, the blue team, after that, Evelynn should have had engaged there. They should just turtled, waited for the Malphite to come. And after the Evelynn, the rest of the team should have just waited or defended the tower, because the purple team couldn't push it. Now we see here that because the blue buff wasn't picked up earlier, the purple team gets the blue buff again for the second time, I think. And it's really important to keep track of timers and have proper vision. As we can see, the map is not properly warded. We have no vision over Baron. Dragon wasn't warded before. With the outer turrets down, you want to have a ward near your own boss as well, preferably. And yeah, because the outer turrets are down, your jungle is really open to invasion, because you have less protection. That's why you also want to defend the turrets, so that the enemy team doesn't get that extra advantage over your jungle as well, because it's easier to invade or to gank when your outer turrets are down, especially if you're warding, or if you aren't warding properly. So a lot of people ask me what you should do in times like these. There's basically not a lot happening. We have the dragon that's already down. We have no buffs. Everyone is spread out. In times like these, you want to group up and you want to push something. If you see that the enemy team is scattered, even if it's only one enemy team member bottom lane or whatever, you just want to group up and you want to push those towers. You want to go for objectives. That's the goal in the game. They offer a lot of gold, and the team with the most gold gets the biggest advantage, and they usually win the game unless there's a turnaround. So now everyone is just farming up and down, farming the lanes, jungle camps. There's basically not much going on. We also see that the purple team is bottom lane, but there should be priority in keeping the Baron warded, especially when you're behind. You don't want to give them Baron, to give them free Baron at least, for an even bigger advantage. And as said before, if the support isn't warding properly, just do it as a jungler. It's way more important to ward than finish those Iceborne gauntlets or whatever. So here we see that Lux catches the Graves, the team goes in, but the Graves flashes away. And here the Evelynn decides to go for the Graves, uses her ultimate on him only. Sona flashes in, uses her ultimate, Malphite uses his ultimate. But right now the team is split up, they use their cooldowns, they use their flashes, and Evelynn and Malphite get picked off. And the rest of the team is basically sitting ducks as well without their ultimates. And I think the Ezreal gets picked up here as well. And as you can see, it was a 3-for-1, which wasn't worth it. In this case, the Evelynn should have just backed. The Grace was low. They could have focused on another target, or they should have just retreated because they're behind in gold. So we saw the purple team going away. They're probably doing Baron, but because it's not warded, we can defend it. We know Grace was dead. Cho'Gath's in the middle, which is a mistake by Cho'Gath. He should have just joined his team for Baron, because his death is not worth it. But yeah, as we can see, now the enemy team got Baron and Asher. That's another 1.5k gold for their entire team. It's so important to ward those objectives. Like earlier in the game, even though blue team was ahead in kills, they lost all dragons. They pushed towers. As you still can see, purple team has 3 towers compared to the 0 of the blue team. And the blue team here is going for their first dragon, which gives a bit of a small gold advantage back compared to the Nashor, still 1k gold. But as you can see, they're still behind 6k gold, which is quite a lot. So now we have another situation like this where we don't have any buffs. Dragon and Baron Nashor are down, but the enemy team has Baron Nashor. So there's not a lot you can do right here. You could try pushing a tower, at least in this case. You see the Lee Sin top, you see the Graves bottom lane. I think, yeah, you trash bottom lane and Nunu's at the blue buff. And if the blue team would team up, they could just get a free mid tower because only Cho'Gath's there. But instead, people just keep farming their jungle and keep farming the waves and yeah, not doing much. But the enemy team is Baron, so turtling is not a bad choice. It's a good safe choice if you don't want to take any risks. We have a bit more ward coverage now, and also. The purple team got a Baron buff, Cho respawned, and they're not doing anything. The Baron buff is only 4 or 5 minutes, I think it's 4. And when you have Baron buff, you really want to group up and push, and not just hang around or waste that. It's a really big advantage, like even also in this game, because the purple team like is quite ahead in gold. They got Baron buff and they just got a major advantage. As you can see here, the mid tower is also low, and they just group up and push those towers. You really want to take much advantage as possible and just increase it even further. Now we see that the purple team is finally grouping up to get that middle turret. Now what would be best here is when your turret is low and the enemy team is ahead, just leave the tower and go back. But instead, Evelynn engages, goes out, goes back in. Then Malphite decides to join the fight, and Eve gets blown up. Malphite gets caught off, and it's basically a 2 for 0. Lee comes in, and Sona just wastes her ultimate because of the lantern. They should have probably changed their ultimates better. We got a Malphite ultimate. We got a Sona ultimate and we got an Eve ultimate. But yeah, in this case they were ahead, so they should have just backed off, leave that tower. Because if you go in and die even more, they can push even further and it would cost you another tower. Now Sona gets picked off again, and when you're support, you really want to, especially with champions like Thresh, Blitzcrank, Nidalee, Lee Sin, you want to ward on the other side of the wall to make sure that you can dodge the skill shots. Now here Evelynn decides to engage, but she focuses Thresh instead of the low HP Cho'Gath. And yeah, she gets damage until like 40%. The rest of the team decides to chase. Which is really bad because in the meanwhile Nunu is top and he's getting a free tower, which is another 750 gold for the enemy team. Cho'Gath loses his life in return by the Malphite, and we can see that there's still a fight going on. But yeah, Graves joins the fight and he gets the kill on the Ezreal and the Malphite. Now the Nunu goes in, and I'm not sure why, but the Evelynn goes around instead of trying to help her teammates. She has the Iceborne Gauntlet, so she can peel. And now she's split between her team. We have the Graves and the Nunu, and on the other side the Lux and the Sona. And Evelynn makes the mistake of engaging while her team is far away. They can't capitalize on it, even though they have good ultis. They can't kill the Graves or the Nunu, and yeah, they basically waste their ultimates for nothing. If Evelynn would have been near her teammates and didn't go around then maybe it could have been different. They might have couldn't kill on the Nunu or the Graves. So positioning was really bad there. So, as said before, you really want to keep track of your buffs and Dragon and Baron. You really want to learn yourself the respawn timers. Right now there's not much to do, but if you know the respawn timers, you can prepare for Dragon, you can prepare for Baron, and make sure that you get those buffs or contest those buffs in time. Now we see that blue team engages on middle. We see that Nunu is top. And blue team is 5, but the Lux get cut off again. And it's quite a risky fight because we don't know where the Graves is. He's pretty fat. And we don't know where the Trash is. And the blue team gets low, and then the Trash arrives. He gets the hook on the Malphite, and basically the Malphite dies. And that's really important to remember, that when you engage, know where your team is and know where the rest of the enemy team is. It's even more important. We see that there's bad ward coverage, and they only had Cho'Gath and the Lee Sin, but they didn't know where the Graves and the Trash were. And that's a risky move, especially when you're behind. The fight can easily turn around when you're fighting their team and their rest of the team is pretty close, and they can just join the fight and turn it around. Now the purple team got another free dragon because of Malphite and Lux dying. And they're basically never 5, and when they're 5 they can change their ultimate properly. So here again we see the Trash is warding over the other side of the wall, so he has vision and can land his hooks. Now Evelynn here decides to use her ultimate. I don't know why. There are only 3 people. Sona falls over with her ultimate. Malphite goes in. The Evelynn goes back in. But there's basically nothing they can do. And what happens now is that Evelynn and Malphite have also died, while Lux is also still dead. And this means that instead of just losing the inhibitor turret and the inhibitor, now the purple team can push through and finish the game. And if they would have backed off, they could have still defended the turrets, but I don't think they could have turned around. So it's a victory for the purple team.